If this is the first time you guys have watched my videos and I started out talking in an accent like this and just played it off as if it was nothing, you'd probably assume that I was British, but I'm not. As a matter of fact, I've never been to England. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is concrete observations. When I meet people and, I start talking to them, especially if I'm talking about, the kind of things I write about, they have this assumption that I do all kinds of things with my time, which I don't. I'm not a particularly productive human being. I spent the entirety of my day today watching Doctor Who and drinking mochachinos at my friend's house. And since I've been home, I've been watching Vlogbrothers for 2 hours, and I've probably eaten my weight in marshmallows and Nutella. And that's kind of interesting because people, look at me and they're like, oh, you're intelligent. You probably do all kinds of stuff with your time. You're probably a student or whatever. I'm not a student. I just like to think a lot. And I actually sometimes get offended when people accuse me of being intelligent because I don't like the idea of intelligence, as like a concrete idea. One of the things I said a couple months ago and something that I wrote that actually got quite a bit of attention was I don't seek to understand things that I don't know, but I seek to know the things that I understand because I don't want to memorize facts or information because that's not going to do me any good. Memorizing the periodic table isn't going to help me at all unless I'm a chemist, which there's no reason I would be a chemist. So I think I like to just research and narrow down and try to understand the things that I already, have and that I know. And that's just me. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mathematician. As a matter of fact, I really don't know how I passed math class in high school. I don't know if I did pass math class in high school, actually. And when you talk about concrete understandings or observations, if you walked past me in the student union at Akron University, and I was sitting there reading a Bible, you would probably assume that I'm Christian, or, that I'm a Bible thumper, or whatever you'd want to call it. Maybe I'm not. Maybe you walked past me and I was reading the Bible to prime an argument against somebody who was a Christian. Now, obviously, that's like a way out of the way idea or, assumption, but, we can't judge everything for what we see. And, like this is a coffee cup, but I was drinking Kool-Aid out of it. It's like, it kind of talks about perception a little bit. I spent 3 months on the Appalachian Trail the summer after my 8th grade year. So, I was 14, I spent 3 months on the trail with a group. And one of the things that struck me a lot during that trip that I still really like to use is, the idea of perception. And when you talk about perception, you talk about, what you see and what you understand about it. So, if I showed you this can of Monster, it says Monster on it. You might not know that it's not typical Monster. I mean, if you drink Monster a lot, you'd know that typical isn't blue. But you wouldn't know, you just think, oh, it's an energy drink that's maybe flavored differently. If you turn it around, it's flavored exactly the same, but it's just sugar-free, it's low-calorie. And it's just the way you perceive things. So, if you look at it from a different angle, you're going to see something different, even though it's the same thing on the inside. Perception is, I think, a lot of foundation for philosophy, a lot of foundation for, people who like to study philosophy or ideology. I don't think there's really any way to say, that my perception is correct. So for this video, I think that was one of the points that I wanted to portray, was that perception is key. You can't say anything is for sure. And I keep going back to the word inherent because nothing is inherent. At least to me, I don't believe that anything is inherent. I went to the SSA meeting yesterday at Akron University, and I was wearing a hoodie, and under my hoodie I was wearing a retreat t-shirt that I had gotten on a retreat with my youth group. And something very interesting happened. On the front it's like a rib cage, and on the back it says "in the flesh," and it quotes a bunch of scripture. Somebody came up to me and was like, "I really like your shirt." And I was like, thanks, whatever, it's cool. And they're like, where did you get it? And I was like, oh, I got it on a retreat. And they're like, retreat? So I took it off, and it had scripture on the back, and they were highly confused because they had made the assumption that since I was at a Secular Student Alliance meeting, that the shirt wasn't a retreat shirt. And even after I said, this is from a retreat, they were like really confused. So that's, it's all about perception and having an understanding of things, especially situationally. Like, if I go to a hospital, you can assume that I'm probably sick or injured when, maybe I was just going to visit somebody or because I worked there. And I think it's just, it's way overlooked. And that's, I think, a big problem. And I think that's one of society's, huge problems. And it's one of my large issues with society, especially when you start talking about preferred pronouns and stuff like that. I'm a girl. If you look at me, like, I look like a girl, and I have all of the girl body parts. And I classify myself as a girl. Yes, I'm a little bit more masculine though than the typical girl. And that's not to say that I would prefer to be called he than she, because sociologically I would consider myself a girl. But I am slightly on the more masculine side. Like, I don't oftentimes find myself clothes shopping because that's just not important to me. And just because you don't enjoy clothes shopping does not make you masculine. It's just I find myself to be less girly, chemically. And that's okay. And it doesn't matter. And even though my preferred pronoun is still she, I'm still a girl. I know somebody who is a girl and is very girly and really enjoys, shopping and, wearing makeup and stuff like that. But he prefers to be he, even though his gender, his sex is male, but gender is, his sex is female, but he likes to be called a male because it's the way that he is sociologically, which is fine. And I think that's one of the big problems of society is if me, just, as I am, walked up to somebody and said, hi, my name's Allie, I'm a 19-year-old boy, people would be like, what? That's weird. And I think it's a comfort thing. It's, if I was born with the physical sex of being a female, then it's not socially appropriate to be considered a boy. If I went to the hospital, it would say that I was a female on my wristband, which is what sex that I am. But if my preferred pronoun was he, then I would expect to be called he. But, people looking at me wouldn't know that. And so that's why you sometimes have to explain things like that. And I run into the same problem when I go to the Secular Student Alliance meetings because, I wear a necklace that has a cross on it, and everyone's like, oh, why are you wearing that? Like, you're a part of the Secular Student Alliance. That's weird. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just because I'm here doesn't mean that I'm an atheist. If this was an atheist group, it wouldn't be called the Secular Student Alliance. It would probably be called something like the Anti-Religion Alliance, which it's not. And I go to the Newman Catholic Campus Ministry, and sometimes during those studies I play devil's advocate and I say, what if this isn't true? And people get frustrated sometimes, like, why are you here if you don't believe that it's true? And it's not that I don't believe it's true, it's all about ideology, and I'm trying to explore. And if I went to the SSA and then I go to Newman Catholic Campus Ministry and I presented to both of them and said, I don't know if I believe in God or not, the people from the SSA are going to say, you shouldn't believe in God, you should do this, you should come with us. And people from the Newman Campus Ministry are going to say, oh, you should believe in God, you should come with us, this is more important. And so it's really hard to talk to somebody from either of those groups and not expect a biased opinion from that. So I kind of have to create my own perception, and I have to let other people know my perception for me, so that they don't automatically assume that because I'm at SSA that I'm an atheist, or because I'm at Newman Center that I'm a devout Catholic, because I don't think either of those things can be, for sure and for certain and grounded in that way. And that's just, it's something I really struggle with, because I feel like we always preach about being open-minded, especially, you know, when you talk about the people that are now talking and trying to change our society, you know, who are talking about the LGBT rights and, you know, the feminism issue and stuff like that, that people need to create what they're preaching. And I think as much as it's important to change things, we need to be patient with the people who aren't ready for that or don't understand that. Because, you know, when you talk about the Catholic Church, the dogma hasn't changed. I mean, you can go back in the documents from forever ago, and, you know, the original dogma and the basic dogma has not changed and will not change. And I think that that's true. I do believe that the base dogma hasn't changed, but the way that we go about, you know, expressing the dogma that they teach, and that the church, you know, takes part in has changed. You know, it's gone from killing animals and spraying blood on doors in the Old Testament to, you know, let's have a youth rally, that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's been lots and lots and lots of years that it's taken for those things to change. Although I would definitely say that I'm glad that I'm not spraying animal blood on people's doorsteps for Pentecost or whatever. But, you know, there are probably some people out there that don't agree with me, that are like, I think animal blood is great. I don't know. And I just, you know, people all change at different rates. It's kind of like puberty. You know, some people hit it when they're 9, some don't hit it till they're 15. And it's, you need to be patient with those people, because, you know, being rude or being forceful with them is going to make them more apt to understand us less. So if I went up and I was like, you're wrong for not changing with the rest of society, the chances of them being like, oh, hey, yeah, you're right, you know, you're yelling at me totally inspired me and I'm going to walk with you. Like, that's not very likely. That's not probably what would happen in that situation. So I think we need to be open-minded about the way we're changing, and I think we need to be very open-minded about people that are having trouble changing and understanding the changes that are happening with our society, especially with feminism and LGBT rights and stuff like that. So let's just be patient with each other. Let's not argue, and like I said in previous videos, let's not be disrespectful. Shitstorms go in the comments, not in the real world. Let's keep IRL calm. Let's do that. Thanks for watching, guys.